The instrument we know today as Baroque guitar, this one, was called in the late 16th century the five-course Spanish guitar, guitarra española de cinco órdenes, and it became widely popular in Europe and at least in America in the decade of 1580. Ever since, it has been the most popular musical instrument in the world, ever since 1580 to 2021.
The oldest known Baroque guitar was made by Belchior Diaz in the city of Lisbon in 1581 and is now at the Royal College of Music in London. It has a peculiar constructive technique, which in Spanish was known as tumbada y acanalada, which means that it has a vaulted and scalloped back.
The oldest book of music for the Baroque guitar was published in Spain, and it has the same name of the instrument.
The book is called Spanish Guitar and Bandola and was published for the first time in Barcelona in 1596 and re-edited and plagiarized many times. The last time this book is mentioned in that period, it was for sale in Mexico City in 1802, more than 200 years later. It is interesting that it refers to just one way of playing the guitar, the rasgueado or strumming.
Strumming is the technique and style of playing the guitar that consists in brushing the fingers of the right hand through all of the strings of the instrument in downward or upward strokes. It represents the basic language of the guitar and is the most important element of its music. Like this. It's almost possible to say that the element that has given social, musical, and cultural significance to the guitar in many ways and in many parts of the world is precisely the strumming, rasgueado. It is also interesting to point out that every single book of music for guitar made between 1956 and 1630 includes only music in strummed style. After this date, 1630, guitar books could have music both in the strummed or plucked styles, as is common today in classical guitar, but it is clear that strumming is the guitar's basic instrumental language and that it was the guitar's faithful companion throughout its Baroque history. The 16th century is considered by many historians as the first golden age of the guitar. The amount of music that was written for this instrument in that period cannot be catalogued, because every day are found more and more sources, and the original Baroque guitars that have been able to survive to our day make us think that the guitar-making business in 17th century was almost of industrial proportions.
The guitar was played virtually by everybody in Europe and America. One historian says it was the instrument of the prince and the peasant, played in the most brilliant royal courts in Europe and also in the lowest taverns. Those who played Baroque guitar could be kings, such as Louis XIV in France, or very important people, such as Samuel Pepys or Benjamin Franklin, or even homeless drunks, as can be seen in many paintings and novels of that time, and also, incidentally, by professional musicians.
And not only in Europe, as long as Spain and Portugal brought the guitar to all of the immense territories they conquered, it is possible to say that the Baroque guitar became, in early 17th century, the very first globalized instrument in history. It was equally popular in Madrid as it was popular in Mexico City or in Manila.
This is a remarkable example. A painting that shows a Japanese lady of late 16th century playing what looks like a 5-chord guitar, which means a Baroque guitar. In 17th century were made some of the most splendid guitars that you can imagine, such as this one by Matteo Sellas, or this other one by Joachim Tilke. Even Antonio Stradivari, the most famous instrument maker of all time, also made a few extraordinary guitars, although not with as many ornaments as the others that we have seen. These Stradivari guitars are, of course, extremely expensive, and only one of them is in playing condition. It's a real treasure.
The music for the Baroque guitar is as interesting and complex as the instrument itself. There is music to play solo in the strummed style, like this one.
Or music to be played as a solo but in plucked style. There are songs with strummed accompaniment.
No envidia su fortuna, pero siente el ultraje que armado de rigores el torpe alivio a sus blasones.
Or songs with plucked accompaniment.
No me miréis, no, no, no me miréis, pues no quiero que logréis el ver como me matáis, el ver, el ver, el ver, el ver, el ver como me matáis.
Or finally, dance music that freely mixes both strumming and plucked styles.
I think that the Baroque guitar was in a certain way the most important instrument during the time of the same name, the Baroque period, and was used everywhere from late 16th century to the very first years of the 19th century. Later, at least in Europe, it was abandoned for other kinds of guitar, but during its vital period, it originated so many different instruments in many parts of the world that it's possible to say that it never actually disappeared. It merely transformed itself into many other guitars, which now are considered traditional instruments all over the world and are basic elements in the culture of the people who use them. In a certain way, the Baroque guitar is still alive in many streets of a lot of towns around the world. The guitar is and has always been the instrument of the people, of different peoples. It is not as other instruments that were played mainly in the church, like the organ, or that were used only by professional musicians, like the oboe or the bassoon. The Baroque guitar was played by kings and peasants in the 17th century, and basically by everybody in Europe, in America, and in several parts of Asia. This circumstance allows us to say that the Baroque guitar is not one single instrument, but an entire instrumental family with many members all over the world.
In Portugal and Spain, still survive many traditional guitars, all of them related one way or another with the Baroque guitar, such as the cavaquinho, the machete de rayao, the braguinha, the guitarro, or the timple canario.
It is in Latin America where the Baroque guitar produced the greatest number of traditional guitars. Every group of people took the Baroque guitar and created a different, unique instrument. Although all of Latin American traditional guitars are very much alike, all of them are very different from one another and generate diverse forms of music that are crucial elements to define the identity of the people who use them. And of course, all of these many guitars have a common ancestor. This one, the Baroque guitar.
There is the family of the Venezuelan cuatro, all these instruments with numeral names, the cuatro, the cinco, and the cinco y medio. The family of the Andean charango, the tiple from Colombia, the Cuban tres, the mejorana from Panama, the Chilean guitarrón.
In Mexico, this instrumental wealth is amazing. One single instrument, the Baroque guitar, generated many others that still exist. The vihuela de mariachi, the quinta colorada, armonía, bajo quinto, guapanguera, jarana jarocha, túa, cirincho, guitarra de concha, guitarra chamula, and many others. Each one of these instruments has its own repertoire and its own personality, and each one defines the character of the music of its place of origin. So it's possible to say that in Mexico, the mariachi land is the land where the vihuela is played. The Jarocho region is that of the jarana, and the Huasteca is the place where people play the guapanguera. It's very special. Some of these instruments have fixed dimensions and one specific form of tuning, and others have many different sizes and tunings, but most of them share some basic features. They are played basically in strum style. They have a form of tuning called reentrant, and they represent the rhythmic and harmonic foundation of the music. And of course, the music played in these instruments is almost always known with the names of sones or jarabes in Mexico, although other traditional genera are also common to the guitar, such as the gustos or the chilenas. For this very reason, we want to make this course precisely on the Baroque guitar. This instrument is at the same time old and new. It belongs to no one because it belongs to everybody, at least in Latin America. With one single Baroque guitar, you can play a lot of music from many 18th century manuscripts, and also you can play different forms of Mexican traditional music, which are very much alive and are of fundamental importance for many people in our country. One of the forms of this traditional music is the son jarocho, that has become very popular in many parts of America, from Canada to Argentina, also in some parts of Europe, and even here and there in Asia, just like in Tokyo. But it's especially the USA where it has become an extraordinary phenomenon. There are musicians who play jarana, call it jaraneros, in most of the major, let's say, Mexican cities in the USA, with a big Mexican population, like Los Angeles or Chicago or New York, and in a much more modest scale in many other parts of the country. The son jarocho has become one of the main ways of expression of Latinos in the USA. Every year, there is a fandango fronterizo, a fandango at the border, which is a fiesta of son jarocho and jarana jarocha at both sides of the wall that separates the cities of Tijuana and San Diego. This instrument and its music are made precisely to congregate people, to make people stay together.